You're listening to Cultureful. I'm your host, Jess Lynn. This month, in honor of Women's History Month, I sat down with Denetra Smiley, a 54-year-old African-American medical coder from the Gullah Geechee community in Charleston, South Carolina, now living in Ackworth, Georgia. Denetra's son, DeAndre, passed away from cancer at 28. In this episode, she shares her personal story, DeAndre's story, and her path through grief and healing, one that has led her to do incredibly inspiring work supporting parents who have lost a child. This is part one of a two-part conversation, with the second part dropping next week. We did have a few audio issues, so some short sections have been remastered with AI. Also, this is the first episode where I've posted the video recording on YouTube, along with photos Denetra has shared. If you want to watch while you listen, search Cultureful on YouTube to check out the video. Thank you for being here, and happy Women's History Month. Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Good to see you too.
How are you doing today?
I was excited about doing this today because it's been a while since I've done something like this. Since I'd say about 2022 was the last one that I did, and I was never featured on a podcast before, so I was excited about that. So thank you again for inviting me and my business, which is Smiley Connections LLC, and Parents That Have Lost Children Support Group. So I represent three different people, myself, my group, and my business.
I'm really grateful that you're here to share your story. I'm really grateful that you're here to share DeAndre's story too, your son. And also just, how your experiences led to the creation of, the business and the group and, all of it, and the bill, which we'll get into later. These are personal topics, and I
Absolutely.
think it is extremely brave and vulnerable to come and be sharing, this stuff publicly, but also in your advocacy work. So I would really like to get started with getting to know you first.
Absolutely.
Because, you're DeAndre's mom. And so we need to know a bit about you, where you come from, and what Denetra is like. So yeah, tell us about, where's your family from, and what was your community and childhood like when you're growing up?
I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. I was born and raised there. I may live in Georgia, but I am a South Carolinian all the way. I'm a Geechee girl.
Side note, the Gullah Geechee people, mostly living along the coastal areas of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, are descendants of enslaved Africans who have preserved a distinct culture, language, and traditions with deep West African roots.
So I definitely carry my roots, and I will continue to carry my roots to the day I die. I love where I grew up at. Back then, my mom and dad were both working parents. We lived in the projects, which was called Ben Tillman. And I'm going to tell you, the first 11 years of living there was the most amazing years of my life. Like, we played outside. We have friends. We rode bikes. We did things that kids don't do nowadays. We had a double Dutch team. We girls played football with the guys. It was just fun all day until the light came on outside. It was time to go in the house.
So some of our listeners are international. And so when we say projects in the US and the projects that you grew up in, can you describe?
So our projects was I would say you would see, not on TV now, the projects are so different. They were more family oriented back then. Like, everybody looked out for every one kid, and, neighbors looked out for one another, and there was no, big crimes or, people killing each other in the neighborhoods. They were apartments that were conjoined together, just like you would see on TV. It was just like a community. And we kind of looked out for each other, and we loved one another just like family. So the projects then and the projects now,
Mhm.
uh I I wouldn't live in the projects now because I don't, I don't know. It's like the generations have changed. So it's like it's a lot more going on in the projects now than it was back then. Even if it was something going on back then, it was
Mm.
like we were too young to even know, and it wasn't so open as it is now. Um, People hear projects now and they think of it as a bad thing because it's so much crime, drug dealing and things like that in the neighborhood, and it's just not among African Americans, it's among Caucasians. So you have different nationalities living in projects now, and it's a different type of ball game right now. It's not the same.
And so when you were growing up in the projects, um, what were your neighbors like? Was it mostly African American? Was it
Yes.
mixed?
It
Mhm.
was mostly African Americans that lived in the projects where I lived. Every now and then you would see one, maybe one or two, Caucasian person, but it was always African Americans, and yeah, and they were anywhere between 2 to 15 children. Some people had lots of children back then. So, but
Mhm.
it was comfortable, it was home, and it was a place that I will never forget the rest of my life.
Wow. And just it's interesting to hear, how projects have changed over time because yeah, like that, when you're talking about like your childhood, I'm like, "Oh, wow, like that sounds like, so much community and so much people looking out for each other and you felt safe to play and all this stuff." And
That's a big thing right there. Safe to play.
mm,
We were in a place where we were safe to play. We didn't have to worry about anyone coming in that was not wanted there because we all knew everybody. So we knew everybody, parents and their family just about. So it's like if you were a stranger coming in there and doing things you had no business, we would know because that's how close the community was.
mhm,
So I grew up in a two-parent household. My parents took really good care of me. It's just me and my sister. We don't have any other siblings. So we were spoiled. My dad drove the city bus for 26, 27 years before he retired or went out on
mm.
medical, because he had to have a kidney transplant. And my mom, she had to leave work early because she had lupus. So she was unable to continue to work for quite some time.
Oh, wow.
And then she passed away at a very early age of 49. The lupus took effect on her body at an early age. My dad lived to see 73. He never had any more problems with his kidneys after he had his kidney transplant. So he would have had his kidney for about 30, 31 years when he passed away. So that's amazing. We left off of the projects at the age of 11, and my dad bought this amazing, amazing house still in Charleston. I thought our house was the biggest house on the block because my dad made sure that my
Uh-huh.
dad made sure that we were happy. Like he was my first love. He was my first everything. Like he made sure that I knew what a man was supposed to be by the way he treated my mother. Um my mother and him lived where they were married about 30 years before she passed away. So it's like I'm trying to follow those same footsteps. I'm at
Mhm,
28 going on 29 years of marriage right now. So I am truly blessed to have somebody in my life that I can share,
mhm,
to say maybe I'll share the rest of my life with them because that's where I want to be.
mhm. For your mom and dad, how did they meet? And when you talk about, emulating their relationship, like what kind of things?
I think from my story that I heard, they met in school.
Uh-huh.
They weren't that far behind each other in school. My dad was like a drum majorette in school, so he was into the band and music. He loved music. My mom, she was a great singer. She was always this pretty girl because she had me in pageants when I was little. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, so it's like they met, then and then pretty much they got together. They were a beautiful couple. They were so beautiful together. They've always been beautiful together. My mom was very
Mhm.
humble spirit, very smooth, easygoing. She never got into anything. She was never loud or, boisterous or anything, but they had good times. We traveled a lot when we were younger. We went to Disney World. We got to see things when we were little, not big things, but just enough to know that they enjoyed their lives as well because they traveled. And then, they made sure that we were happy too.
And what were some of the values that they instilled in you?
Be respectful, be mannerable. Um, you know, you have to make sure that you value yourself. Because if you don't value yourself, nobody else will. So those were the most important things, definitely manners and respect because we never called any adult by their first name. Even today, I've taught my children that, and even today, my children still call people Miss Tanya, Miss Dee Dee, Miss this,
Uh-huh.
because I believe in manners, and I teach that to my grandchildren as well. Like it's yes, ma'am, or no, ma'am, and manners. And I taught that to my kids, and this is a very, very, very important saying. Manners will take you places that money will never take you.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yes.
This is a side note. I'm new to the South, right? And
Yes.
I grew up in California and I just turned 38. And when I moved here last year, I was 37 and just going around town just to like at stores or the doctor's office or whatever, I was so surprised and confused by all the times someone my age or slightly younger would call me ma'am. I was
Uh,
like, I took it
yes.
as like a sign of like, do I look really old? Like, what's happening?
No,
And then
no.
finally, people were like, no, that's just respect. That's how people show respect
It
here.
is respect. They call my husband now OG because he's now in that age. He's only 49, but the younger guys call him OG. What's up,
Uh-huh.
OG? Uncle. I'm like, don't call me auntie because I'm not an auntie.
So you prefer ma'am?
Yeah, ma'am is fine. I love to hear the young generation with manners. If they call me ma'am, I'm taking that with respect because I know that somebody taught them the respect to respect your elders because you have so many young people out here now that are cuss in front of you. They will do anything in front of you. Like it's like you're not even a grown up to them. It's like I don't have no respect for you. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I still do ma'am, yes sir, no sir. I still do it.
Mm.
So it's like when they do it to me, I take it as respect because they could have been calling me anything else, but I prefer them to call me ma'am.
This is important for me to hear because I think I need to start saying ma'am and sir more and add that to my vocabulary here because if that's how people here receive respect, and I don't
Yes.
mean to be disrespectful, I just didn't grow up with those kinds of terms.
It's a
Yeah,
cultural thing and it's
you know?
it's it's no disrespect. It's just that you have to adjust to your culture. Wherever you go, you have to adjust to the culture. So
Right, because I want people to feel that I am respect because I do mean to respect them, and I
absolutely.
just need to remind myself that this is how people receive that respect here.
Yes, yes, yes. So I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with that. Now you may call somebody ma'am and they be like, "Oh no, don't call me ma'am. You can call me Pam. Don't call me ma'am,"
Uh-huh.
because they don't want to feel old. It
Uh-huh.
has nothing to do with old. It's just out of the kindness and respect for another human being. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I realized that when I was at a yoga studio recently when this older man called me ma'am, and I was just well, because I was walking away from him and he was trying to get my attention, and I turned around and I was like, surely he's not talking to me. And then I was like, wow, He was looking at me trying to hand me a piece of paper, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he is talking to me."
Yes, he is talking to you.
So I was like,
Yes.
"Right, it really is not an age thing." So that was
No,
interesting. That's something that I'm learning here.
it's not an age thing. I promise you, it's a respect thing.
When you were a kid, how would people describe your personality? Like when you were maybe like, a teenager, early teens?
So when I was younger, people would describe a personality as, I would say, shy. I used to be so shy and bashful back in the day, but
Really?
I used to love to sing, and I don't think I would have been described as what I've described now as outspoken and, you know, be able to talk about a subject without even writing anything down. So it's like, um, yeah, I was pretty shy back in the days. It took me a long time for me to get to the point where I would walk in a room now and say hello. So,
Really?
yeah. So now it's like I'll walk in and, I read the room, but I still would speak. And whoever don't speak, hey, I did my due diligence. Um, so basically, we grew up, I attended middle school. I mean, elementary school, middle school, high school is when I got pregnant. Um, I was in 11th grade and I didn't finish out school, so I ended up getting my GED because it was just so much as a young girl trying to
Mhm.
finish out school and then trying to figure out this thing with baby and making, figuring out life. I had to figure out life early. So I had my first son at 19 and I had my second son going on 20. So it's like I had two kids back to back. So I was an adult at an early age. I moved out of my parents' house at 19 because I was able to take care of me and my children at the time. And I became a young mother. Um,
How did you support yourself when you had so your first son, his name is Artis,
Artiste, yes.
and DeAndre. So
DeAndre,
you were
mhm.
19, 20. How did you support yourself and the two of them to be able to move out?
I know. Well, back then, like I said, I was younger. So I was on Section 8. So Section 8 helped me get an apartment and be able to have my boys in one home with me. And I did that for about, I would say 4 years. I was on Section 8, maybe 4 years. And because I had to move out that apartment within 6 months because they were selling it to a company that wasn't taking Section 8. So I had to find another apartment. So when I moved to my other apartment, I spent 4 years there before I met my husband. And then we moved to North Carolina because he just joined the Marine Corps. And we moved away and went to Jacksonville, North Carolina.
And can you explain Section 8 to some of our international
So
listeners?
Section 8 is basically temporary housing assistance. Just say for instance, your rent may be $1,800. Section 8 may pay depending on if you have a job. If you don't have a job, they may pay the whole thing, and then sometimes they pay the majority of it. I say just say 1,700, they'll pay, you have to pay the other $100. So you're on a subsidized living until you can provide for you and your children. At that time, things were, like I said, I would say a young adult, starting out as an adult, really, because I had two children. And then, that pretty much that helped me get to where I am today. When you're on those types of assistance, if you don't need them, don't use them. Use them when
Mhm.
you have to or when you're eligible for it, because and it really makes it horrible for other people who really need it and can't get it, because you have some people that are continually using it and they don't even need it.
And so when you were on Section 8, were you also working?
I was sit working at first, but then I end up working. And it wasn't a lot. Back then the pay wasn't that great, but they would go by your income and I wasn't making enough for them to not help me. So they did
Mhm.
help me. My rent would raise a little bit each more. I would have to pay a little bit more each time because I'm working and I'm making income, which is, feasible because when you work, you pay for, where you live. So I started paying a little bit more each year until eventually, like I said, we came up off of it because I got married and moved on with my life
Right, you
and
didn't need it anymore.
didn't need it anymore. But I thank God for them. I was on Section 8 and I had food stamps as well. Food stamps would help you, get your food. They call it SNAP now. Help you get food and nutritional things you need for you and your family. And that really helped me and my boys out. They were little, but I made sure that they ate every day, made sure they were clean, made sure they had the best of everything. And anybody who knows me knows I took great care of my children, even at a young age. So I am happy to experience that journey, that I went through that journey, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
What kind of jobs did you work? And how did who watched them when you were at work?
My mom. So my
Okay.
mom was able to watch my boys while I was at work. My parents did. I would take them to their home. My mom didn't play um with me leaving my kids over there for long periods of time. She said, you can go to work or
Uh-huh.
take care of any other important business, but when you're done, come get your children.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's unlike, the grandmothers these days where we just about have full custody of our children, our grandchildren. But my mom didn't play that. My mom would watch them for me and she would make sure that, you know, she would keep them for me while I work and everything. So I was working. My dad took me to my first job, which was at Bilo grocery store. So my first job was at a grocery store. I loved the job, but then I didn't like it. So I ended up working at McDonald's next. So I
Mhm.
went to McDonald's. And then after that, I think, I don't know, it was just little odd jobs here and there. But then I finally found my niche. I started working for Verizon back in 2003, 4, something like that. I really liked that. Verizon taught me customer service and taught me how to talk on the phone properly and to deal with people who were dealing with, irateness over their cell phones.
Mhm.
So I learned how to do customer service, and that became my number one niche. Because I can get on the phone and I could probably sell anybody anything on the phone, but I'm not a seller. I hate selling. I don't like collections or selling. But because I know how to build rapport with people, customer service wise, I probably can, get them to calm down or take what I'm selling. So I
Uh-huh.
love customer service. I've done it for over 25 years. I think that dealing with so many after Verizon, I went into the medical field. So I would say about 2008. So I've been in the medical field for quite some time. And I started out doing CNA, a certified nursing assistant, but I figured fastly that that was not for me. So I ended up doing the behind the scenes. I love to take care of my patients and I love
Mm.
to make sure that they're taken care of paper wise and make sure that they got the best health that they can get possibly in order for them to make sure that they're taken care of. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm in that part of the medical field.
Yeah, I can see that being a really good fit for you. And you are really good with people.
Well, thank you.
Back to when you're like 20 and
Uh-huh.
you have Artis and DeAndre,
Uh-huh.
and they're both tiny. What was going on for you internally? Like, were you daunted by that situation where you had two kids and you're like a
Uh,
young adult and you're working these jobs? Like, where was your mindset at?
well, having two kids at a young age, yes, that could play a big part on your mental. Because you're starting out as this young person, and then you're having these kids. They're like, boom, they're here, and so it's like I was prepared. Like I knew how to run a household. I knew how to cook. I knew how to clean. I knew how to take care of my children because those are the things that my mom taught me. So I knew that I was capable of doing those things, and I have been since then. I've been taking care of my kids, my grandkids, my parents when they were sick, my grandparents. So my mom taught me and instilled all of these things in me at a very young age and, teaching responsibility. And these are the things that we try to instill in our grandkids now that we've already done with our children. But with our grandchildren, we try to instill these things now so that way they'll know and have that, as they grow up. Because, like I said, these are the things that are beneficial for your life. You have to know how to cook, have to know how to clean. I mean,
These
like,
are life skills, life
it's our
skills.
life skills. Yes.
Mhm.
So really at first, it was a lot thinking, hey, I got these kids or whatever. But I think because I was a mother, it was just something in me that kicked in right away and said, you're a mom now. So this is what's going to happen. This is how this is going to happen. This is what we got to do. So there is no excuses. And some people are meant to be parents and some people just ain't. And I was meant to be a parent. So I took care of my children.
Mm. Aw. Let's shift and talk about DeAndre,
Absolutely.
his life, his personality, and
Yeah.
yeah, I want to hear his story. So let's take our time with it. Let's start with when he was born. You were 20. What year was that?
He was born 1990. He was
Mhm.
actually born the same day as my dad. Him and my dad's birthday is the same day.
Wow. What day is
Yeah,
that?
June 25th. It's like now when their birthdays come, I have to celebrate the both of them because they're
Mm.
gone. As a young boy, DeAndre was very talented, very smart. He liked music. He loved music. He loved to sing. He loved to dance. I would buy him these little play keyboard things, and he would walk around the house and play these keyboards and
Uh-huh.
sing. And he loved music.
Did you sing with him a lot? Do you think that was kind of how it grew or how
Yeah, he would watch
yeah.
me sing because we were church going. I had my kids in church just about every Sunday. I was very active in my church choir, so they would always see me sing a lot. So I guess he got that from his mom, and
Mhm.
he would love to just play different, music and sing and all that good stuff. And I would just watch him through the house, just doing all those things. I don't think he ever entered a talent show, not that I can remember, but he loved music. He loved culinary arts. So when he got to high school, cooking was his thing. He
Mm.
wanted he wanted to learn how to cook. He was in different cooking competitions. He went to Garrett Academy of Technology in Charleston, South Carolina, where they had trade schools there, culinary arts, auto mechanic, things like that, where I wish they would, come back with a lot of that stuff for the kids there so they would have more of a trade and learn how to do something different.
Mm.
He would also be in college, things like Upward Bound. He was a part of that. And some other little programs. I prepared him early for college. He would go on college tours and stay the weekend or the night or whatever, things like that, with the school to give them that feel of college and to see what it's going to be like, once they get there. So
As a young person, what was his temperament like? What was his personality like?
he had a temperament. I would say he had a very outgoing personality.
Yeah.
He's always had a big smile on his face. Most of the pictures I sent you probably show some of those smiles. Even in his darkest days of his the latter part of his cancer, you would walk in his hospital room and he would just be smiling. You know, he would all have this big smile on his face, and it was God's gift to him, and he used it very well. And so everybody knows him by his smile. Everybody said, "I remember your son. He always had the biggest smile on his face." So
Mm.
and he was like that ever since he was a small child. I never had any problems at either one of my boys. They were never suspended from school. They were always good students in school because they know that their mom didn't play with them. So if I get a phone call from school, I'm coming to sit to the school all day with you until you
Mhm.
figure out what's going on. so so I was that type of mom. I stayed involved with PTA and all kind of projects and community and schools program. Me and my husband was very active in school with our boys and made sure that they did what they were supposed to do. So
Mm.
he was very outgoing, outspoken, always loved to smile. Always.
When he was in, like, say, elementary school, who
Hmm.
were the main people that were in his life influencing him? Like adults and also kind of like what kind of friends did
Absolutely.
he hang out with?
So like let's say middle school, I would say it would be me, his dad, which is my husband, which is not his biological dad, that's his stepdad. but that's who he called dad. He's called him that since he was 5 years old, up until his death, which was at the age of 28. My dad, his grandfather, and then I would say his grandmother and great grandparents and aunt on his dad's side, his biological dad's side. They were very active. They would come and get him on the Sundays that we didn't go to church. They would come and get him and take them to church with them. He would spend holidays over there. You know, and weekends when his grandma would come and get him for the weekend. So he spent a lot of time with that side of the family as well. Even the out of towners in Maryland. He had some aunts and cousins out in Maryland. They all were very close to him. He had a very solid foundation. My sister, his aunt, you know, on my side of the family, his brother, his two cousins that my sister has, two daughters, his two cousins. And friend wise, DeAndre always had friends. He
Uh-huh.
had some of the sweetest little friends. He would bring them to the house, you know, as he got older. Because when they were younger, I didn't care for kids to be in and out my house. So it's like,
Uh-huh.
no, no, he can't spend the night. No, he can't come in. You
Uh-huh.
know, I was that type of mom because my mom raised us like that. Like we couldn't have all kind of kids in our house or in our bedroom and things like that. That's our home. That's our sacred place. So it's like you're not gonna just be bringing any and everybody into the home. So,
Uh-huh.
but he had very good friends, girlfriends, guy friends. They all were very sweet young lady and men. He would bring a few by the house every now and then from high school up in the college area and they would call us pops and moms. You know,
Uh-huh.
I always enjoyed seeing him and his friends. So he had a really solid foundation and a solid friendships and, you know, things like that. So my son's childhood was a great childhood. Like we made sure that our kids their kids. I'm saying everybody who was involved in their life, they took really good care to make sure that my kids always had or whatever. So memories with him, I would say this is not like an entertainment memory, but I think that one of the greatest memories as a child for me with him was seeing him graduate and getting ready to graduate from high school maybe
Mm.
and getting ready to go to college when he was a part of this program and they spoke very highly of him and the things that he did within the program and as a person. It made me feel like I did something right in my life to
Mhm.
help my children get to where they are in their lives. So
That you raised him right.
yeah. So that was a great memory for me, just knowing that my child is excelling, thinking about the foundation he had behind him to make sure that he gets to that point. I can't pinpoint just one, but that alone by itself, just to see your child keep going in life and not being locked up behind bars or
Mhm.
dead or on drugs or, you know, that's a win-win for not only me, but for him as well. Cause he knew what to do to keep going in life. Even when he stumbled, you know, he knew how to keep going and he didn't give up. So those moments are the best moments for me.
To see that he's out in the world and he's kind of handling all of these.
Yeah, he became an adult. He was responsible. Man, DeAndre lived his life and he was such an amazing young man.
Did he have a rebellious phase as a teenager?
Yeah, he cut school one high school year.
Uh-huh.
It was actually before they actually had the senior cut day. He cut
Uh-huh.
school and somebody must have seen him or something. I don't know what happened, but he was working at Wendy's and my husband went to his job because he thought that everything was gonna be cool. And
Uh-huh.
my husband let him go to work and everything. And when he got home from work, he went to his job and told him he can clock out and come home because he got a notice today that he got school and he would not be working the rest of the week.
Wow.
My husband was very stern, and I don't blame him. for that. But that was the only rebellious time that I could think of that
Uh-huh.
actually did something that bad. And then when it came to senior cut day, he didn't even cut school. My husband was like, DeAndre, the day is senior cut day. Are you going any place? He was like, no, I don't want to, I don't have no place I
Uh-huh.
want to go. He said, well, today is the day you can actually cut school.
Okay, so it sounds like your husband, very stern. Like, how
Mm.
would you describe your relationship and your parenting style with DeAndre versus your husband's relationship and parenting style?
So my relationship with DeAndre is sometimes I think I used to be a little bit more stern than my husband is. He would be like, y'all don't want to deal with y'all mama because she mad. You know, my husband is a very stern but fair person. He would be stern, but then he would tell you why. He would give you a lesson out of it, and he would make
Mhm.
sure that you understand so that way the next time you'll think about your action before you do a reaction.
Mm.
Because every action don't require a reaction. So he gets stern with them and make them understand that just cause doesn't mean that you need to. So he had a close relationship with my husband. When he was sick in the hospital, my husband would go and bathe him and just rub his feet, his back. He was just going through so much, and my husband was hating to see that. So it was like he would travel back and forth with me to DC because we were still living in South Carolina before we moved
Mhm.
here, and I would go frequent, like often, and be there for weeks, and then he'll come up, you know, when he had the chance to come up and then be with me, and then it would just be them two. I would go and get my rest. It would be them two.
Mhm.
Everything. That's my daddy. Every nurse and doctor walk through the door. That's my daddy. This is my daddy. This is my dad. He loved,
Mhm.
loved, loved their relationship. He loved their
They're
relationship.
close.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
were very close.
So you were talking about how your mom raised you to have all these life skills, cooking, cleaning, all this stuff. When did you expect your kids to start learning how to cook, to start learning how to clean around the house when they were little?
Well, cleaning part right away. They needed
Mm-hmm.
to know. I taught them as little boys. Pick your toys up. Get all this your shoes. Line your clothes. Line your shoes up. Get your, things like that. I would make up their beds and all that good stuff. And then later they learned, I taught them how to. But I was a very clean person. Still I am. I don't like nastiness per se.
Side
Um,
note, I went to your house yesterday to help set up the equipment, and I asked you a couple times because I was in disbelief. I was like,
this a
is this
model
a model
house?
home? Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean it's spotless, but
Yeah.
it's also like just really beautifully decorated.
Oh,
So
thank you. Thank you. It's simple to me, but everyone who comes here always say that, be like, I never come to your house and it's dirty. Like, do you ever live in here? I'd be
yeah,
like, like, what are you talking about?
yeah. I asked you that same question yesterday. I was
Yeah. You're
like,
like, do you live
do you
here?
actually live here? So yeah,
Yes.
so
Yes. You asked me that. And I was like, why did she ask me that?
when you come to my house on Friday to return the equipment, just, manage your expectations. Like
I
it's,
listen, I don't
yeah.
set no expectations before I go to nobody's house. All I know
Uh-huh.
is when you come to my house, I know my house better be clean. If it
My
ain't
mom's like
clean,
that too.
I'm
Yeah.
mad. I am mad. You just don't know. I get on my
Uh-huh.
husband all the time. He open things and don't put it up or leave
Uh-huh.
empty stuff up. And I don't know. I don't think it's not OCD. I know it's not because if it was OCD, my house would be cleaner than this.
Uh-huh.
But I just think it's I don't know. I don't know what it's from. I think because I used to have a job cleaning hotels, and I also did a job cleaning hospitals, the rooms and stuff. And I learned how to do environmental services work then too because my mom did that kind of work back in the days too.
Mhm.
So it was like, yeah, I got to have the chrome shining on the bathroom the
All the
things on
faucet,
yeah, the
everything.
faucet, everything gotta be clean. Like, it's like,
Uh,
I don't want to see nothing out of place. My sister always laughs at me. She's like, "Girl, I'm not even finished with that yet, and you wiping up already? Can you just wait till I finish?"
okay,
Yeah.
and so, and like the other parenting question I wanted to ask you was for, so you and your husband raising your two boys, African American,
Absolutely.
in the US, African
Yeah.
American men and boys face a lot
Mhm.
of racism, a lot of,
Yes.
different things, right? And so,
Yes.
and they have to navigate a lot growing up. So,
Absolutely.
were there things that you taught them that you kind of focused on because they have to navigate the world as African American
Absolutely.
boys?
As African American boys and men, we had to instill in them the truth. They have seen some of the things that have been happening on TV as they're growing up and things of that nature. And we kind of like what we do as parents, we sit down and we ask questions about their beings, their surroundings, their this, their that, to initiate some of the talks because you have to not only, tell them, well, this is going to happen if you do this, but you have to still know what they're doing in society in order for you to say, okay, don't do that no more. That's not good. Don't ever do that. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do this. So the stuff that me and my husband would instill in them as Black boys and Black men is you have to know your worth. You have to know the laws. You have to make sure that you're not hanging around people that are going to cause you to lose everything you have. Because in South Carolina, the hands of one is the hands of all. That means that one get in trouble, you all get in trouble. So when
Mm,
they bought cars and things, we said, don't have all your friends or all these people in your car because you don't know who has what on them,
mm,
or whatever the case may be. And if the police pull you over and if one person got this, then they're gonna think you all have it. So we try to instill things in them that we know that, help prevent having any further look into anything because you have good cops, you have bad cops. I mean, that's all to it. I
mhm,
mean, that's just life. I don't discriminate against any of them. They're there to do their job, and I'm hoping they do their job well. But as far as, our um race, we do suffer a lot with our Black men and Black boys because they get stereotyped just because they're
mhm,
big and my husband used to weigh, a good bit of pounds before he lost weight, and people were like, "Yeah, okay, big man," this and that. It's he's not a threat to anybody. Just because he's big and he's Black, he's not a threat to anybody. He's a big old
mhm,
teddy bear.
mhm,
So I always tell people, get to know the people that you're around, get to know them. Don't judge them. There's no judgment here. Nobody has the right to judge anybody. So get to know the people that you're hanging around and don't judge them from what you hear other people say. You give them the benefit of the doubt. And then that's how you basically figure out, who's who. But we never had any problems per se with our boys having to go through that. Now, my husband has some run-ins with the police before.
mm.
It was very traumatic, and it's part of his PTSD as well, and probably part of mine too. Now that I think about it, but it was very traumatic, um, and I think that he's okay with authority, but then authority figures he's not. He doesn't do well with them because of all the past for the past experience as he has experienced as a Black man.
Right. Yeah.
I never had the run in with the police myself, and
Mm.
I pray I never do.
Hearing that your boys had to grow up with like so much more awareness
Yes, then comfortability. Yeah.
and just alertness and like just so many things that they had to be aware of growing up that like
Mhm.
other kids don't have to think about. And that's just,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I know what I understand what you're saying. It's almost like some of the Black men and young men now, it's like they can't live comfortably because they're always looking over their shoulder to make sure they're doing the right thing, or making sure that nobody's trying to hurt them or harm them from doing what they're doing or whatever. It's really sad that we live in that type of world, but you know, I don't know. I'm hoping that one day that'll change, and life will get to the point where everybody can just be as one in unity, and nobody's out there hurting one another because of your skin color.
well said.
I'm praying one day this world will be that place. I'll probably be long gone from here, but I'm hoping that I get to see at least some of it before I leave this earth, because we really need a breakthrough in peace and unity right now. It could be as much as one little thing, one person start one thing, you know how things just go from trickle.
I really strongly believe that it's much harder to make assumptions about people, to have, these unfounded stereotypes or generalizations when we know more people up close. That's why this is why I'm doing the podcast. This is why I really believe in the podcast. And I think when we hear people tell their story, when we see people close up, when they're like a fully living, breathing, feeling person that we know, it's so much harder to kind of do this othering, in our minds.
Yes.
And it was cheesy. I felt like it was too cheesy to say, but it's true. It's true.
It is true, because it's like, suppose my parents instilled in me when I was little that, oh, Caucasian people are not nice people. You shouldn't talk to them. And, you should look at them like this and you should look at them like that. And then when I get an age where I actually meet a Caucasian person and say, oh, they're not like what my mom and dad said or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you instill something in a child when they're little, more than likely they're going to go and follow it until they get to a certain age, and then it'll be up to them whether or not they make that decision of, should I continue to do what my parents say because that's what they taught me, or should I do what is right, which is love everybody because they're a human being. They're nothing like what I was told. Maybe I need to get to know them a little bit better so I can figure them out, because I've been friends with all nationalities in my entire life. I've had some Caucasian best friends. Like, it's like, I have never been taught that color is a thing. I've been just taught that people are people. Get to know people for people and not for their color.
Thank you so much for listening and being here. Part 2 of this conversation drops next week, so be sure to follow and hit the bell to get notified when it's out. In the next episode, we'll dive into what DeAndre did after high school, his story with his partner, his cancer journey, and how Denetra has navigated grief and healing, plus all the incredible work she's doing now. You can learn more about her work on her website, smileyconnectionsllc.org, linked in the episode description as well. She's currently organizing On the Road to Healing, a retreat for parents who have lost a child. If you'd like to support, consider donating through the GoFundMe on her website. This episode was produced and edited by me, with advising and executive production support from Ruben Yana Rubin. I'm Jess Lynn. See you next week.